Oh, hello there. Welcome to Metrosix. It's the capital of Delaire. But more importantly for our story, it's a dangerous place. For 14 years, the city has dealt with a succession crisis, each one of the throne sitters dying within the month. However, rising from the poor forgotten 6th district, an heir to a fallen house and his trusted allies endeavor to break the noble's misbegotten deadlock. While it could be dangerous to step into the conflict, success here wouldn't just mean safety and stability for the sticks. But for the whole of Delaire.
Welcome back to Toss the Dice. Thieves and Kings. When last we left our heroes, they were striking a deal with the pirate captain. So, you have now established an embassy as well in the pirate nation. And that is a big part of the legitimacy that Aurelius gave him when striking this deal. But we should establish if there's anything else that we need to accomplish in a more political manner before we take to the streets.
Yeah, actually, I remember us talking about annexing whatever the black market has. Whenever whenever there's an inspection, there's like black market material that we're gonna annex that. Is it just already assumed that those the metallic resources would be brought over to me, or should have there been something like mentioned about that? That's kind of what I wanted to do, but I'm not sure if that's like.
That has very much to do with your image politically and what plays you want to make with that. So I would say that's up to Aurelius as to whether or not that's going to be taken over.
Yes, we set that up, but I'm not confiscating black market material as of yet.
Oh, we're just taxing it.
Yes, we're just going to be taxing it for now.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify because
but I agree. Helpful. When we do, it will come to you, and so it's just a matter of when, though, because right now I don't want to start out the gate with making an enemy of the black market. We need to make sure we've got a sure footing before we make another enemy. So it's just going to be right now that they're getting taxed the same that we're getting taxed by this pirate nation. So
okay, good deal. Then that'll work for now. So if we're not making an enemy of the black market, who are we going to make an enemy of?
I assume that it would be the nobles, right? The ones that, because he's fighting for the crown, which is not just of the sticks, but like.
Yeah, that's a good point. But there is actually 7 different noble targets. So, and they're not working together. So there's, even amongst nobles, there's 7 potential targets.
So at least when we discussed this last time, and I've since looked over the people that we might want to go after, of course, we're going to have to all vote on it because we're a team. However, I proposed that we actually go after the people who are affiliated with the crank hammers with the mines, right? The 2 different houses that are in control of the mines.
Yeah, so House Strid is in control of many of the mines within the 2nd district. And then there's also House Corelay, which is monopolizing the majority of the refineries. House Strid does have a few, but if House Corelay's refineries get shut down, then it drastically restricts the amount that can be refined.
Who was particularly already associated with the crankhammers and the factory there? Which house?
So It would have been mostly smuggled goods straight from the mines. So the Crankhammer's looking over Reynolds' books. It looks like he collected a fair amount from just directly smuggling from miners who are ripping off the house. But he had made purchases from House Drid as well. And actually, in some cases, House Corley. He was buying both refined and unrefined pieces.
But if I recall, one house was bigger than the other.
That was Drid, right?
That is correct. He probably would have bought a little bit more from Drid.
Yeah. Well, I propose we at least have a meeting with them as us, as the day crew, because then we can talk to them about us taking over the factory and how we might want to proceed from that point. But I do believe that the Spectres are going to want to have some action helping taking part in making this run again.
Okay. Let me establish real quick. Where would you say you are currently? Like, let's establish that. I would think that you guys are meeting either, well, if this is official business, you're probably not meeting in the sewer hideout. So where would be your typical base of operation?
The Aquilay Castle.
Ah, okay.
Oh, right. Have we moved in there?
I mean,
don't think we have.
You definitely can. No, you definitely can. There's enough rooms and things intact that you can. There is a fair amount of the castle as well, especially the more major rooms like the entry hall are exposed to the elements because of the broken parts of the castle. But there's lots of rooms in a castle, and so there is plenty of places for you to stay without that being an issue.
Well, I personally would like to move in. I'd like to address that.
Okay.
Because I want to get Haven out of wherever he's at. I want to get Piper.
Hey,
presumably
Haven's with me.
Yeah, I'm assuming you guys are sharing the same dive. And we're gonna get you out of there.
Then you're within the let's say you're actually within the war room of Castle Aquilay, planning your next move. What do you think would be your play for getting in contact with House Drid? Keeping in mind not just the the method in which you contact him, but how he'll receive it, and whether you want to make a power play or show a bit of humility. I guess what you're trying to accomplish kind of informs a lot of what you'll be trying to do with this connection.
Yeah, I imagine that as we're standing around, Aurelius is going to want to hear from everyone. So he begins to say, like, hey guys, we know that House Drid has been supplying the factory with metal. We still need that metal. However, we also need to make it legit. So the question is how do we go about this?
I mean, we can't.
Coming out of the shadows of the corner of the war room, Bastion kind of surprises you guys. And he says, you're going to want to consider...
screams in fear. Like, he peers and he's like, jeez! And he looks at the corner. And like, for a minute has to settle down. He's like, Bastion, we talked about this. You can't keep doing this, man. You gotta let me know. At least.
Braz speaks in your mind and says, you get used to it. Give it a few more years. And everyone around you has really gotten used to when you take a minute to listen to Braz, and so everyone takes it in stride.
It's like
but
That's So Raven moment, right?
Yeah.
It's like go into my mind and blankly into space.
Exactly. He puts the paper down on the table, and he says, "There's a few stories here that might affect your decision. It seems Talvis is trying to throw whatever wrench in the works he can with his stories. First of all, the top two stories are Talvis retracting his minor disaster compensation. And to clarify, we're talking adamantine miners in the mines, mine workers.
Okay.
He's retracting the relief effort for the mine collapse. He's specifically retracting it due to unrest in the 2nd District. There's a big scandal that he's publicizing about House Strid illegally selling adamantine to the black market and to the crankhammers for years. It also says that more recently he has been mobilizing troops within the 2nd District. Bastion says, well, as far as people knowing that House Strid is selling adamantine to all kinds of people, it's also well known. His armies are well established in the compound. So while this isn't new, he's definitely made a play here by addressing it publicly. In addition to these stories, there's, well, the usual that you would actually know last time you looked at the paper. It says help wanted for Harbor District freight hands and help wanted for Grey Dove couriers. Both of these are genuinely ads for the Smugglers Guild. However, it's got clean books, despite it being an illegal operation. And then lastly, there's a follow-up article. Now, you read this probably a couple of months ago now. It's this story that following up on what Annika was working on, a new type of SMV. The article talks about it being a great disaster, a turn for the worst, that it's going to reshape civilization in the worst way possible.
I've got a few questions. First off, lore questions. Are there miners? Like, are there children miners? Because that seems on brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Given how these I guess how the city is run in the absence of a strong leader, definitely.
Okay, so we're gonna need to write reforms to that. Add that to the. Is there anything else we need to do to fix the sticks section? So then, my immediate thought is that do we have any thieves or intelligence personnel with Annika building these? Like, do we have any ins in there?
No. You can send a few on missions. I will say that your stock of elite spies is smaller. You including Bastion, you only have 3. So basically, the way this works is you can send your crew out to do a spy operation, but you have to choose if you're sending your high quality crew or your low quality crew, and where you're going to send them.
Okay. Second question: would it work the same if I if I sent thieves to steal one of these vehicles?
Yeah, you could definitely do that. However, stealing one of those vehicles would be a very high risk maneuver. It has a high likelihood of going disastrously wrong. And so I would suggest that either you handle that personally, or if you're going to take the risk, just have a plan B, because if your thieves get caught trying to steal the vehicle, not only could they die, just because it's such a high priority thing, but the entire of Matrosix, the entirety of Matrosix would know that Aurelius, the new kid in town, attempted to steal this new vehicle.
So, and then lastly, just so I understand, is it Lord Talvis in the second district is building an army? No, it's
House Drid.
It's Lord House Drid that's building an army in District 2. So
According
I would say
to Talvis. According to Talvis.
Which is true. Which is like he's
Yeah. Bastion did confirm that he does have troops mobilized, but he has had troops mobilized for a long time.
Okay. So the question I want to pose. So actually, Aurelius, he does a slight bow and he says, "Thank you, Bastion." That does indeed change what I might be thinking. What sounds like a greater threat to you? To you guys, we've got two big threats I see here, which is a force possibly being massed in District 2. If he is trying to build it up, and there's also a risk of another disastrous SMV being manufactured. We have been on top of stopping most technological advancement for terrible war vehicles in the past. And it seems to me like this is just another one of those cases. But I also ask, can we really stay on top of stopping every project like this? It seems like the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think a couple of things. First of all, I think that I think the cat is kind of out of the bag at this point. I mean, they're working on their own independent project, and if they're working on something, somebody else is going to pick it up too. We knew it was only a matter of time. But I think on top of that, and more importantly, what it sounds like this article is really trying to do, what Lord Talvis might be really angling for from the wording he's used, is that these technological advancements are really bad and are going to negatively impact Matrosix. But you know who's the only person currently trying to mobilize them for the use of the people? Us. This seems like an indirect attack at what we are doing. I think the greatest threat of all of this is Lord Talvis himself.
Aurelius says, "Thank you, Elektra." Now, Piper, Haven, what do you think?
What? Piper has been picking at her fingers and just kind of looking around. What were we talking about?
Okay, Haven, what do you think?
Moving on.
Haven actually quite interested in the subject matter. Leans in and rests his hand on the table and says, I am more inclined to agree with Elektra and what she has to say. Technology will continue to advance no matter where we are. That's just how it goes. So I say we just stop this whole counterattack to our personal forces. From what Elektra has said, it sounds pretty valid to me. And I never really liked Lord Talbus anyway, so it sounds like a perfect opportunity to, pay him back a little bit.
Yeah, not kind of far back, eh?
So are we taking the risk or are we doing something else?
Walking into the room, you hear a knock, and Quintus says, "It's me, my lord."
Enter.
Quintus walks in and he says, Lord Talvis has been spotted with an entourage heading towards Castle Aquile. He, given the pomp he's showing, this seems like he's trying to meet with you.
Or trying to put you in your place.
Yeah.
Prepare the dining hall, and we shall meet with him and hear what he has to say.
Quintus straight up says, "You'll have to hire a butler for that. I have to get back to watch duty."
He put you in your place there, Aurelius.
No, Aurelius laughs at that and is like, "Oh, I forgot. I forgot to hire a butler and kitchen staff. I'm presuming. I mean, this castle hasn't been operating in so long. It's just been kind of like a shady headquarters for the Thieves Guild, but I don't think it's been a proper castle in a long time."
That's true. Bastion says, okay. And he pulls out like a mask. It looks like it doesn't have a lot of glint or glamour to it, but it is a elegant like masquerade mask that he puts on, and he starts pulling out of his bag a costume change. He's like, "I was undercover for a while as a butler, so I can do this. I know what appearance is," and he's like griping about it, but he's in the middle of changing. And
I walk over to him and I put my hand on his shoulder and I say, "My friend, just this once. And I promise I'm going to hire a butler and kitchen staff this week. Such duties I feel are below you. So thank you."
Piper pipes in and she says, "So are we actually going to need food for this, or cakes or something? Because I know I may not look it, but I can make a meat pot of tea."
As long as it's not poisonous, I'll take you up on that offer.
Oh, it's not poisonous. It's me mum's recipe. She was quite the baker and tea maker, I will see. She learned from the best.
I walk by Aurelius and kind of just like whisper in and say, "I can confirm."
And she just gestures. Will Smith gestures.
Okay.
Quintus says, "I'll disarm the traps at the front." but after that, he'll be back on watch duty.
Thank you, Quintus. So, here's what I'm thinking, and let's put it to a vote. I had my eyes on the mine situation. However, I do believe that there are other matters in the sticks that need to be addressed before we can move forward. Meaning, I am mainly worried about Lord Talus, and I am worried about what's going on in the black market, and I'd like more information before leaving our borders here to see what's going on. I will dispatch one of the three best spies to infiltrate the SMV project with what's her name?
Annika Kerr.
Okay. And that's where he's going to go, and he's going to feed information back home. As far as that what do you guys say? Handle things here, or
I think we have to get a handle on our own situation.
Well, I would say definitely focus on getting our grounding assured, but I don't think it would be a terrible idea to eyes on some of the situations. Maybe nothing too invested or too in there for our own safety and not disclosing our intentions. But just enough to not be completely caught unaware.
Now the amount of time you have is actually quite small before Talvis arrives. So before you continue this conversation, is there anything you need to address quickly?
Piper says, Aurelius, you better freshen up. I don't think you should be meeting this man with that looking as presentable as you probably could, right?
Yeah, I agree.
fine.
Braz,
Piper leaves to go make the tea.
Braz says in your mind again. He says, "Actually, I prefer the opposite method. Be as shabby as you'd like. Slouch in your throne. Show how trivial your power is. Belittle him. Make him feel small."
I appreciate your input, Braz. He does freshen up a little. What he's gonna do is he's gonna don old Aquile house clothes that are presumably found in the castle. Befitting a lord, but not quite looking so regal that it's like not pirate bougie with like the huge fluffy sleeves. But definitely one would
Classy.
say ordered. Yeah.
Very
Okay. Okay. So to be clear, you're taking Piper and Elektra's advice over Braz's, correct?
I'm actually going to mix them.
Okay. A bit of both.
I'm definitely going to get a little bit more ordered, just like Elektra and Piper said. However, when he comes in, I'm definitely going to be very comfortable in my own castle.
Okay.
However, I do not intend on belittling.
Okay. Then Lord Talvis arrives, and as he shows up, he's actually driving in a vehicle, and this vehicle is very different from the ones you're used to seeing around the sticks, because this one has a proper chassis that isn't built off of a wagon. It has a proper housing for the engine and all the works. This
flames on the side.
Maybe not, but it looks more like a car than a wagon, whereas the vehicles you're used to have been built out of old wagons in the sticks. And then as he arrives, you very quickly realize that he was not the one driving, as the driver gets out and opens the door for him. And on horseback to either side of him is his bodyguards and his various attendants that have all come to make a big show of his entrance. This, in part, it's not such a large entourage that it's honoring you to any great degree, but the fact that he has all of this does make this somewhat official.
Okay. So when he arrives, we see all of this.
Yeah.
And Aurelius has the doors to the castle open. and he has Quintus. No, wait, no, it wouldn't be Quintus. It would be Bastion, standing at the door, ready to escort them to the hall. Where, if everyone's good with it, we're all gonna be, because I need us all there. He's our next target potential.
Yeah, I'm in.
Should I disguise myself as a maid? I'm serving the tea. I don't mind. I mean, as long as it's not all the time. But if you think it'd make it more official, I could.
I do not see it as more official, but I also know how much you love to disguise yourself. So if that's what you want to be doing, then I'm open to it. However, you are the, what would we call, what's the position called? Head of trade. So I would, like to have you at the table there with me as well. That's perhaps more official than having a maid serve the tea.
Here. In that case, Piper will probably in a way also clean up a little bit. Like nothing too fancy, but she's probably gonna, maybe not have all of her, her weapons on her. They'll probably be stowed away in her bag of holding. Look a little more clean and respectable. Just a little. Maybe clear some of the smudged makeup under her eye.
Okay.
Be clear, Elektra is definitely not doing that. She's strapped up and acting as Aurelius' official bodyguard.
Okay. Valid. So
what about Haven though? I am curious.
Yeah, he puts up his hair a little bit. It was a little messy. He didn't particularly think about taking care of himself that morning. He was just like, go, go, go. So he decides to just kind of clean himself up a little bit.
All right. As Talvis approaches the door, next to the door is actually like one of the rooms that has a gaping hole in it with all the bricks, toppled over. And so as Bastion, in disguise, of course, waits to let the High Lord in, you do see as he looks over at the opening and he gives a chuckle, a little condescending chuckle. But he walks through the door, and he walks up, and he gives. You're waiting for him just inside the door? Is that correct?
To the hall.
Yeah, where Bastion lets him in.
I am actually.
You're thinking in the dining room?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, no. Let's do the hall. And yes, I am waiting.
Okay. So,
are you on the throne?
I'm presuming. I mean, I'm sure the throne's in the hall, right? Like, I'm not high for assuming that.
it would probably be actually in the throne room.
Okay, bet. So I'm not. I'm just, you know what? In my head, here's what I'm imagining. The door's open and you've got that stairway, there's 2 stairs on either that lead to that top. That's where I'd be standing.
It's like that Beauty and the Beast staircase.
No, exactly.
Yeah, you're waiting at the top in your beautiful ball gown.
Yes.
Okay.
Gracefully descends the staircase, swishing his skirts.
A songbird resting on my finger as it flutters away, and I then.
I'm just thinking of the princesses on parade scene from Princess Swan.
Princesses
on parade.
Yeah, Princess. What is it?
Princess Swan.
Shout out to all the people that grew up with that ish. Beautiful. Continue DM or GM. My bad.
Talvis walks in. He keeps his chin up as he does, and he walks directly to the into the middle of the room, and walking beside him, one of his attendants steps forward and says, "Announcing High Lord Talvis of the 3rd District." And and he steps back, and Talvis steps forward, and he says, Aurelius, I am glad that he gives you the ever so slight tilt of the head in acknowledgement. And he says, I am glad that we have had the pleasure of doing business together in the past. You taking care of that little matter of some street crime in, well, next to some shabby tavern. Yes. It seems if I had known that you, well, had some status, then perhaps I would have paid a little better. I apologize for that. I meant no slight.
Oh, that's fine. It was for the good of the community.
Of course it is. So, I'm hoping that we can, well, resume our business partnership. As you know, I'm sure that there is much happening behind the scenes, shall we say, in the city. And I just wonder if we couldn't accomplish more, as you said, for the good of the city, together. I mean, the Styx is such a lowly district. Perhaps beside a stronger one, we could actually make something of it. Don't you think?
Lord Talvis, with much respect, I do not talk business in the hall. How about we take this to the dining room?
Very well. I will.
How many people are going to join him coming to the dining hall?
Maybe just the bodyguards?
Yeah, it seems like everyone would follow, but not everyone would eat. So, from Lord Talvis, anyway.
I appreciate you bringing so many close associates of yours. However, they will have to wait outside, as I'm not prepared to host so many guests. After all, it's no secret that I've only just gotten back into the Aquilay Castle, and I would love to invite them back when it is refurbished.
Oh, Aurelius. They won't be dining today. But I will not be going in without my bodyguards and attendants. You understand? Good. As I was saying, you should understand that, being in your territory, that, a certain level of protection is warranted and expected of nobles. Something that you should learn if you're going to, well, persist as this. He gestures to you.
That's not highly offensive. I want to clarify, I say that incredibly quietly. However, I personally can't do the accent and be quiet.
So, what skill do you want to use for that? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Go
well,
ahead.
I was going to answer, but if you're not going to make me, then I'll let it slide.
Yeah,
I
no.
think it's ironic that he's like belittling him so much. You know, it's like if he wants him to work with him, you know, if he wants to make a deal, why is he, you know, very subtly but also apparently insulting?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to
All the
use a
passive
skill really
aggression.
quick.
Okay.
If you don't mind me.
What action are you attempting?
I want to use study on Lord Talvis, and kind of just see into like what he intends to do based off of like what he's saying. This sounds like he's about to like take possession of District 6, or like that's what he wants to like do, or intends to do. So I just want to throw it out there and see like what I can get from it.
Okay. Are you sure that study is the one you want to use for that?
Yeah, because study is like understanding things in detail, is it not?
Yeah, it would be looking them over. I would just wondered if you might want to use like consort, like dealing with people instead. You probably get much the same result, but I would say studying him a little more openly might bump it up from controlled or bump it down from controlled to
Risky.
yeah, risky. Thank you. I was forgetting what the term was at the moment, but
See, so just like openly interacting with him.
yeah, I was gonna say you might be able to gather the information a little more subtly if you interact with him using consort, whereas if you're just studying him, then there's a higher risk, because if he notices you looking him over, he might be suspicious, like what are you getting at, or offended. So
I mean, wouldn't we all be looking at him? Because he's the only thing in the room that's really going on.
not necessarily, because you're walking. Yeah, you're walking to the grand hall, and you notice that the rest of his entourage has very clearly not been looking at anyone in particular. So, and to be clear, just because this is kind of some of the minutia of Blades in the Dark.
Let me be clear.
Yeah. I'm not telling you that you can't. I'm just saying.
Just unbroken eye contact. He's like, oh.
Your choice then?
I'll use consort.
Okay.
Kind of just
on High Lord Talvis.
Yeah, High Lord Talvis. Yeah.
Okay. Then go ahead and first of all give me what you say to him, and then second of all your roll.
Shoot.
You could just kind of like help, could be like directing him to like the hall or something. You could be like walking in front, kind of leading, like with like Elektra as the bodyguard. We're kind of like, at the front, kind of leading them. Like his entourage is in the back, we're in the front. We could be directing them, and you can just verbally direct him, engage his reaction to you talking.
Yeah, because
subtle.
The way that I want to play this out is like, I want to be kind, but I feel like it's not in my place to really talk to him as of now, so I don't want to like directly introduce myself.
You could always wait until we get into the hall and actually talk business when your side of, because you're in charge of the factory. If anything related to the factory, or if you have any questions regarding the factory and like any deal with him, then you can pipe up, because that is your charge. So maybe save it for when we start talking business.
Okay. I tell you what. If we're talking advantages and disadvantages here, here's the thing to consider. If you wait till you get to the hall, at that point you'll start talking business, and you can kind of hear what's being said more. But I would consider that a group check. So basically, if you think you're going to not do that, then go ahead and make your check right now. However, if you're willing to lead a group check, then go ahead and do that once you reach the dining hall. And we'll just deal with the stress that could come from a group check. So that'll be kind of like the mechanical difference between the two.
Then I think I will use that. I'll use the group check later, because I just don't feel like it's the right time. But I do want to gain whatever insight that I can, either from my own surroundings or directly interacting with him. So,
in that case, we'll probably resolve your check in the next episode. And instead, for now, you lead Talvis following behind you to the dining room. He sits at the table. His men just stand at attention in the wall at the wall behind him. He pulls out his own chair and he sits. He kind of slumps back a little bit. He rests on one elbow and he says, "Now, about District 6. That's it for this episode. I am Brendan, the DM, and host for Toss the Dice here on Expedition Anything. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our other shows on the channel. Consider joining our Patreon for various perks, or if you're just feeling generous. A big thanks to my players, Alyssa, Aaron, Paul, and Elise. And lastly, thanks to you, the listener, for sticking around until the end of the video. See ya on the next expedition.